Hey, I'm Allison Hare, and welcome to Little Left of Center, the podcast that interviews culture changers that are reshaping our world and breaking new ground. Without darkness, there is no light. Rumi. On today's episode, my guest is Jen Roberts. She is the founder of the celebrity favorite, the LB brand, and newest creation, House of 88. Through processing profound loss in her own life, she's been able to turn her string of personal tragedies into an empowered transformation. And I thought Jen's story was extraordinary for so many reasons. And I also feel like grief and loss leave people, well, at a loss. It's a part of life, and maybe the change in culture is not feeling so alone when you're dealing with the toughest situations. Warning, this episode contains graphic and disturbing content about suicide. Please use caution if this could be triggering.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, welcome back, Jen. That's me. Yeah.
Hey, welcome back, Jen. We're doing take 2 today. So we're here with Jen Roberts. Jen Roberts is this amazing, brilliant, creative artist and entrepreneur. And we tried to do an interview a few weeks ago, but Jen also has a newborn and said, you know what? He's always on the boob. He'll just sleep. And he came over and took the show over. So we're in a redo mode.
Yes, basically I said, can I come back and we can just do it sans baby? Because I'll be able to concentrate.
Baby. Yes. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm excited to have you. And it's interesting because as a culture changing podcast, one of the things I think is really, really important to address that we don't address enough is grief and loss.
Sure.
And I think people feel uncomfortable when somebody around them experiences grief and loss, or somebody is experiencing it firsthand and feels that pressure, whether it's somebody saying it, to get over it, to move on, to just get back to normal in some way when they're kind of dealing with some things. And so Jen Roberts of House of 88 and founder of the LB brand, which is how I found you and how I fell in love with you.
Awesome.
Because the LB brand is a lifestyle brand that had all of these really not unbelievable, but these incredible slogans that just really resonated, where it was, you can tell me about the LB brand.
Sure. Yeah. The LB
I'll run this entire interview by myself. You just relax.
Yes. So the LB brand started back in 2013. I was staying at home with my first son. And I was navigating being a stay-at-home mom, but also navigating the loss of my mom, as well as becoming a mother at the same time. So motherless motherhood. And I'm sure, as anyone knows who has ever stayed home with a child before, there's definitely a loss of your sense of self. And so I just would, when I would put him down, I would just start to create, even if it was just drawing something. And what ended up developing into this lifestyle brand that really was empowering mothers and children, and later on fathers, to really kind of claim their parenthood or childhood for themselves. And so during that process, things that resonated with me and things that would just come up while I was creating, they became these slogans. And when I put them out, people started to really connect to them. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own.
And one of the things I thought was really interesting about you, and I got it as soon as you said it, where you said the LB brand, becoming a new mother. A lot of people, when they think mother, there is a negative connotation that all of a sudden you are less than. And it was almost like an empowerment of some of your slogans are rise of the woman and protector, lover, mother.
Yeah.
And so if people have seen me out and have seen this thing where they're like trying to read my chest going, wait, that's weird. Right? What is I don't get it. And then when they read it, they're like, oh, that's really cool. And these slogans, like the one I have on my daughter, who I wear, she's about to grow out of it. And I'm so sad because I love it so much. But it says, "Dear Big Me, I can't wait to see who I grow up one day." Or
yeah,
wait, I can't wait to meet who I become. What is it?
What is it? So it's "Dear Big Me, I can't wait to see who I become one day. The little me."
I love it. And it's so cute. And so it had resonated so much that Gwen Stefani was wearing your things, Rise of the Woman or I Am Modern Motherhood, and even Fatherhood as well. So it was like a family lifestyle brand. So Rose McGowan and J-Lo and Gwen Stefani had it all over the Instagram, and you had all over the Instagram.
The Instagram.
I'm like 100 years old. I just learned about Instagram.
Go on the Google.
Exactly. The face place or face space.
Yeah.
So it had really struck a nerve. And I wondered what it was like for you creating this thing just out of your own loss and this creative aspect to empower women, that you have somehow turned a string of personal tragedies into a really unbelievable transformation. But I think even beyond that, that you've had a power to be able to connect with people in another way.
Sure.
So I'm curious to see what it was like as people would respond back to you from these slogans, from what you represented, from what you put out into the world.
Sure. I think that's kind of, that's a little bit layered. So how I felt, I think at one point when I knew that I had something that was resonating, I looked at the market and I was like, if there is no actual real lifestyle brand. Like if I were to go into Macy's, there's not a lifestyle brand that is speaking to me and who I am. So because I couldn't find it anywhere, now I'm going to go out and create it. So I'm creating these things and people are wearing them. And if anything, I think not that I'm creating for, but when you get that sort of validation, you're like, wow, I'm onto something. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So for me as a creator, it was pretty phenomenal. I mean, most people only see someone like J-Lo or Gwen Stefani in the TV screen, or, now it's our phone screen. So that was pretty wild for me. I was just like, this is way bigger than me. And this is resonating with more than just the mom in a cul-de-sac or, someone like me who I would be bold enough to say I think I'm a hip mom. So, this is resonating with people that are celebrities and, living their own life. And I think the really cool thing about Gwen was Gwen, at the time that she came out, she was the first big celebrity that kind of broke it. And when she came out wearing those sunglasses, it was during a time that was basically in response to her husband at the time, who had cheated on her and she had left him. And so she was then seen, once that broke, she was seen for the next 2 weeks everywhere in those sunglasses with her children. So at that point too, I realized not that I Am Modern Motherhood, it actually has nothing to do with a man, but for her, she was using that as a way to claim something for herself or to define something for herself. And I was like, wow, that's really fucking wild.
Yeah. And so the brand had morphed into something else where you had a brick and mortar store.
I did, at Pont City Market in Atlanta.
And then what happened?
I think so with anyone who's an entrepreneur and anyone who has a startup business, it's all about taking risks, and some risks pay off and some risks don't. And so at the time that I took the risk to do a brick and mortar, LB had been in existence for about, I think, 5 years. Just online. And I really was looking for that space to be more of where I could cultivate more community in person, not just online. And it didn't work. I mean, the business didn't work in that space. And so last December, I had to make the decision. I was like, okay, well, it's, business is business. And I couldn't continue to keep going. And I think I used that as, I guess this is time for me to kind of go back into my cocoon and wait to see what I come back out as.
So it seems like, and you were also gestating a life at the same time that
I had become pregnant.
You had become pregnant. And so it sounds like a perfect time for a transformation or a transition. Even though
I was not ready for it. I think I did not want that to happen at that time. That was not something that I was, I went into that like, okay, this is going to be able to take it to the next level, and it didn't work. So I had to go through a grieving process with that as well.
So as we talk about grief and loss, And like I said at the beginning of the show, I feel like as Americans, we are taught to get over it, to medicate ourselves through whatever method it is, to not feel. And I think that from a healing perspective, I'd love to know your perspective, and certainly if you're willing to share your story, because I think your story is important. But I also feel like it's so hard to heal unless you process it properly. And the reason why we are so over medicated as a nation, we are obese, we are over everything. But what we're not is healing as much as maybe we should. And I think part of stories like yours and experiences like yours, I think you can shed a lot of light on your journey if you're willing to share.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the question is, how did I process it, or the lack of processing in I guess America or
what
culture?
are your thoughts on that too? I mean, you went through some really traumatic experiences and really took a different path.
Definitely took a different path, and I definitely took a different path from my family, like my lineage and like the choices that they had made. I think a lot of the hurry up and get over it, if you really take a step back and you take yourself out of it, when you look at what's happening, one person is telling another person, come on, get over it, or a society. And I think that all has to do with an uncomfortability. So it's really not about the grieving person. I think it's really about the person telling them, hurry up and get over it. They're uncomfortable with it. If you think about losing somebody and you think about all the different stages that you go through, that's not only is it hard to go through those stages yourself, but think about just witnessing someone going through that. There's not a lot that you can do. And I think that makes people feel helpless and out of control. And so they want to just hush, hush, move forward. And I think for me, I knew that if I didn't process, and it's not like the grief doesn't come with a handbook, just like becoming a parent doesn't come with a handbook. And you can read all the self-help books you want, but at the end of the day, the actual work is something you have to figure out yourself. And for me, a lot of it was, if I don't get this out of me, this is going to kill me. And it's not going to kill me in the sense of I'm going to take a gun and put it to my head, but it's going to kill me. It's going to just become something that is going to deteriorate my quality of living. And I can't let that happen, because for me, I mean, the biggest thing was I'm a parent to a child, and I don't want that for my child.
Do you feel like if you did not have a child, it would have been a different thing? Did you feel like, because you had a string, like your mother passed away suddenly, you find out you're pregnant, so
like
a
3 months
motherless
later,
mom, 3 months later.
Yeah.
So you're trying to navigate a journey that you weren't expecting to have. And, life doesn't always offer guarantees, but it's unfortunate. And then you had some really unfortunate things happen with your brother.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was my mom suddenly died. And at that time I was living in Louisiana with my ex-husband, and my brother, who was with my mom at that time, he found her. So that was a very, very tragic thing for him. And then the next year, my stepfather died. And then I guess it was a year and a half later, then my brother had killed himself. And but before he had actually killed himself, he had, and I know we talked about this before, there was a purposeful addiction that happened there, where he had been navigating so much stuff, and he, I think, just felt completely hopeless, and at a certain point said, fuck it, I'm gonna get myself addicted to heroin, because I know that, like, once I get myself addicted to heroin, at a certain point you become so far gone that I'll be able to basically end it.
Is that a thing?
No, I don't know that that's a thing for anybody, but I think for him,
yeah.
I mean, I think, whether people say, a lot of people say about people who commit suicide, it's it's like the easy way out. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's pretty fucking hard to actually kill yourself. I think it's pretty fucking hard to like gather up the, I don't want to say courage, because it's not like it's a strong thing to do, but to actually pull that trigger, and to do that. I don't think that he ultimately really wanted it. I don't think he saw a way out of where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, how can I just kind of get really far gone?
Yeah.
So that was really hard to watch him do that, obviously, the last year. And at a certain point, the last time I spoke with my brother, he had, my sister had called me in a panic, just a little, so people know there's 3 children in my family. I'm the youngest. My sister is 3 years older than me. My brother, 5 years older than me. So she had called me in a panic and said, I just talked to Jesse. He was on the train tracks and I'm driving over there. I'm getting him. And, I said, I called to him and I hadn't been speaking to him because at a certain point I had to cut him out. I couldn't go down with the sinking ship. Again, I'm trying to raise this toddler boy and I'm living in Louisiana where I don't have any help around me. My husband at the time was working. And I mean, I was just so emotionally overloaded that I'm like, if I don't like sever this, I'm going to go down with the sinking ship. So that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make and go through with in this life. And the last time I spoke with him, I called him and I just said, Jesse, like, I love you so much. Like, please, what are you doing? Like, I don't want you to die. Like, you got to come out of this. Like, I would go to hell and back for you, but like, you have to make the choice that you want to get better or that. And I remember he said, he was just so emotional and he just said, fuck you. I don't even hear from you anymore. And like, I just remember being like, fuck. And he just hung up on me. And that was the last time I ever heard from my brother. I ever heard his voice. That was the last thing he said to me. And do I know that above all of the pain and above where he was, is that really truly how he felt towards me? No. But the worst case scenario happened. And I think a lot of people, when they're navigating loving somebody who is either an addict or is, very mentally unstable, there's mental illness, and it gets to a point for them where they're like, I've got to pull myself out of this and pull back. The thing that usually makes people an enabler is, but what if they die? And that happened. And like the worst thing happened. And I'm here to tell you, you can actually get through that, but it definitely is an added layer of pain in the grieving process. It's not easy to navigate.
How do you, I'm sure that people have probably come to you with stories where they feel like they are out of control with somebody they know and love who might be suffering from addiction. What do you tell them?
You can't change them.
You can't change them.
Is
it better to pull out or is it better to try?
I
guess it depends on the, scenario.
Well, I think that when people really understand, so the thing that my brother taught me, a gift that he gave me, and, we can talk about at a certain point, getting to a place in your grief where you're actually able to, there's a shift in perspective. There's a real genuine shift in perspective where you feel differently or see things differently about it than when it first happened. But I think the biggest thing that I've always told people is you can't change your insert name here unless they choose to want to change their situation, whatever it is. They have to choose it. You can be enabling for the rest of your life or until they die.
It's so hard because it's, I think, again, as a nation, we are doers. We want, okay, this is a problem. How do we fix it? And when it's out of your control, I'm interested to learn about how you chose to cope, because I think how you chose to cope was really noble and fucking hard, especially considering your lineage, like you mentioned before, of maybe coming from a string of addicts.
Sure. A string of addicts. There was a ton of mental instability. And I think that a lot of that stuff runs in a ton of families, but it manifests in different ways. In another family, it could be packaged really beautifully, that people really wouldn't know. And in other families, they're, it's very obvious,
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know, live in a trailer somewhere and hardly ever wear a shirt, or like it's so one of the biggest things that helped me to choose to want to heal is that recognizing that where I came from, like I said, I came from a string and there's a lot of addiction and there's a lot of mental instability. But I think that is a symptom of it not being dealt with, right? So when someone says, well, I come from this family that's got a ton of addiction and blah, 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 blah. It's like, it's just not really, it's not being dealt with. That's why it keeps going on from generation to generation to generation. So for me, I knew that like the real change really did, and I don't mean to sound cliche, it really did start with me. That if I wanted to see anything different for myself, I had to navigate that again on my own. I didn't have anyone to navigate that, with. And I just want to say for people that are going through grief or going through like a really tragic loss, even if you could be surrounded by 1,000 people, but that inner work, the feeling of the grief and the feeling of all those feelings, you can be alone in the midst of a sea of people. It doesn't matter who you have around you. It's nice to know that if things get too much, I know that I can check out for a little bit and this person will help support me or help take care of the kids or help with finances or, whatever that may look like. But they can't do the work for you. They can't feel those things for you. And so I think, getting back to, I just knew that it was a choice that I had to just put one foot in front of the other and kind of take it how it came. And I knew that I had to take it head on.
What did that look like for you?
I think in regards to my brother, I was just a quick little background. The day that he had died, my sister had called me and she said, I didn't hear from Jesse yesterday. I was supposed to take him out to breakfast. The last week and a half of his life, he was living in a Motel 6. At that point, he had signed himself out of rehab. And, he had exhausted relationships and stuff like that. And my sister said, you can't come and stay with me. I'll pay for you to live in a motel until you figure out what you're going to do. So he was there for about a week and a half. And during one of the days, and she was going to take him out for breakfast. And she went down there, knocked on the door. He didn't answer. So again, she's like, I don't know, maybe he got fucked up and, he's not here or whatever. And then when she didn't hear from him, and then it was the next morning, she called me. And I'll never forget this. A lot of people, when they go through tragic things, a lot of times they're like, I don't even remember. I just blacked out. Like, I fucking remember every single thing. She was sitting in her car. She called me. I was having coffee with my husband at the time and my little toddler son. And she said, I didn't hear from Jesse. And I could hear it in her voice. And it was like, at that moment, I got up and I went into my office and I said, okay, just breathe, and she's telling me what happened. And she said, I have the maid or the housekeeping. They're going to try to open his door. It's locked. And so at that point it was, okay, let's just open the door. And if he's not in there, great. I think for her, the fear was that he was in there and that he did something. And so I'm on FaceTime with her and I'm just watching her. I'm watching her face and she's looking at the door and she sees the guy come down and it was horrible. The key went in and she went to push it open and it stopped 6 inches in because it was locked from the inside. And when that happened, it was like, fuck. Like, before she pushed that door in, and I wrote about it in one of the letters, it's like when your life, like literally it is suspended in like that feeling of like my life is suspended in front of me and this can go one of two ways. And I am right here waiting and I'm about to find out which way it's about to go. And so that was something I was so acutely aware of experiencing. And then when it pushed open and it stopped, it was like, fuck, my sister started screaming. And at that point, the phone dropped. She got out and I could just hear her. Oh my God, he has a bag on his head. He has a bag on his head. And it was like, the nightmare started. And I remember in my office just screaming, like I dropped to the floor and like just the like guttural screams of experiencing that, and like that this was a reality, and just banging on like the windowsill. And I just like, again, I remember like the dust particles just going up. It was a night. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to go through that.
You know, your life is going to change.
Yeah, you're at that moment. You're thrown in the middle of it, and now you're navigating everything. And I think one of the things with grief and trauma is that like while you're going through it, you're ping-ponging back and forth between, is this really happening? Oh my God, this is fucking happening. Is this really happening? It's like your mind can't compute fast enough to actually, and all that whole experience and what comes after is what most people spend a lifetime breaking down and dealing with.
You had created a website called Dear Jesse, My Brother. Is that right? DearJesseMyBrother.com, writing letters to your brother.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, like I said, I was, my ex-husband at the time, he worked in the film business. And so I was kind of, you know, I was living in New Orleans. I didn't know anybody, and I'm navigating that, but a stay-at-home mom. And so he worked so much. So I didn't have this, support that I could have used. And I needed something. Like I said, the feeling of like, if I don't get this out of me, it's going to kill me. This is going to kill me.
Did you start writing right away, or was it before he died?
It was several months after he died. Mm-hmm. It was several months after he died. And I just sat down, and one day I knew what I had to do. And this overwhelming sense of, I wanted to make it public. So, I mean, his death came as like a really big shock. I mean, to people where we grew up and that knew him when he was really like alive and good. I mean, if you could have seen pictures of my brother in high school and things that he did with his life, I mean, no one would have pegged him that his life would have ended this way. He was, I mean, physically, he was beautiful. He had so many things going for him. He was brilliant. His IQ was like a 153. Like, he was a genius. And yeah, people just would not have necessarily thought that that's how things would have ended. So I think part of me making it public too is like, I didn't want to be alone with it. I just didn't want to be alone with it. And so I started writing, and then I just kept writing.
Did you feel like you knew you weren't alone, meaning people would read that and get it and get you and understand, or feel like they were not alone? Because didn't you say that people would reach out to you after reading these letters? And I thought it was interesting because on that website and those letters to your brother, you go into very graphic detail, and it's beautifully written, but the pictures are so graphic in a way that was hauntingly beautiful. Not graphic as like, stuff you're going to see on like Faces of Death or something.
Right.
But
it was very real.
It was very real. But things like his pictures of him in the casket. Mm-hmm. You know, people don't normally take pictures of that, but it was so beautifully done.
So, and I'll touch on that. My brother he was an artist himself, but he was also a photographer, and he was more of a documentary style photographer. So you would have never really found his stuff. Like I remember he hated shooting weddings and stuff like that. Like, he really wanted to document the realness of like a person, or that thing in them when they were not aware. Right. So, when my mom died, I think this was part of his grieving too. He had asked one of his really good friends, his photographer friend, he said, will you document her funeral? And I think my brother asked him to do that. I can only speculate because I don't know. He never really said to me. I never questioned it. I got it. I didn't think it was weird. I think he wanted to be able to remember, because I think there was something that I remember my brother telling me when we were growing up, the trauma that he went through when he was a kid, I think that he couldn't remember things. And I think him knowing how big that this was and the thing that he just went through with being the only one that found her and being alone at the house and not having anybody. And like, he went through another layer of trauma that was my sister and I did not go through, right? So I think that's why he wanted that photograph, my mom's funeral. So I knew where my brother stood when it came to that. And I think there was an awareness inside of me that when he died, I called his same friend and I said, will you please document his funeral? Because I knew that my brother on some level would have wanted that done. But I think I also knew intuitively, even though I didn't know consciously, that there was a story that I needed to tell. And that was going to help tell the story.
So tell me about your spirituality growing up. What did it look like in your house?
Very, very colorful. When I was very young, my parents they met at church. And I think it's really interesting. Speaking of trauma, my mom was engaged in her early 20s to a man who passed away suddenly 2 weeks before their wedding. He was in a car crash. She almost drank herself to death. I think it was like 2 weeks after her mom had said, just get over it. You got to move on with your life. She never processed that. And for her, I think she went into religion. That was how she was dealing with it. But she never really dealt with it because it haunted her entire life. And it affected her entire life. So she ran into religion, and that's where she found my father. They were a part of that whole movement that was like born again in like the 70s, born again Christian. So that was exposed. We were exposed to that when we were really young. But by that time, my mom had already started drinking again. So she was not really into it, but my father was. And so we got exposed to that. And it was like, the speaking in tongues and like just this far out part of it. It always made me extremely uncomfortable. And
do you run from it today, or do you feel like there's some type of tradition or familiarity that you might find comfort in?
No, I think for me, I think even as a child, I could never put words to it because I just wasn't as advanced, obviously, as a kid. But I think that I saw a level of brainwashing going on. And I think that was really uncomfortable for me. And it's interesting because that feeling of everybody hear this and everybody agree on this and everybody act the same way and say the same things and this, I think that's actually me like repelling from that has actually come through in so many different areas of my life of like how I've wanted to redefine things and say, I have a voice. Even take LB, for instance. I mean, it really has nothing to do with the religion, but if you think about me wanting to, I'm going to pave my own path. I'm going to make my own way. And I think that comes out in my creative.
I like that. I have a voice.
Yeah.
That is really profound.
Yeah.
And when you think about some tools to help you with healing, what are your thoughts on therapy?
Huge. I'm a huge proponent of talk therapy.
What kinds did you try, or what kinds did you find work?
The interesting thing was my mom, just a little quick background, she was a recovering addict and alcoholic, but she relapsed a lot. So, but she was also very educated, and she actually created and wrote a course on addiction and would go teach it at universities.
Good Lord.
Yeah. And then
oh my God.
And then she would come home and I would see her as an addict. So it was like the polarity of stuff it was a mind fuck growing up in a lot of ways. But getting back to that. So I was always I was introduced to therapy. And I mean, by the time I was in high school, I was reading Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. I mean, like I was very aware of that stuff. And I think it was around 25 or 26 is when I, as an adult, got myself into therapy.
I want to talk about your conscious choice of not self-medicating and breaking the cycle, because there are probably a lot of people listening that relate to your story in a lot of ways and feel like they may be trapped in a cycle of addiction, trapped in a cycle of tragedies, personal tragedies that they're not sure how to unwind themselves out of. But you made a conscious decision where it has to start with you. It has to be broken here. What did that look like for you?
So growing up as the child of an alcoholic and in an unstable home in a lot of ways, people will definitely relate when I say that your environment is not predictable. So in a reaction to your environment not being predictable, we naturally as human beings, and especially as children, to not lose our shit completely, you want to control outcomes and you want to control the situation because you don't have control. So a response that I have struggled with at times, which is trying not to control things, actually worked for me because at the times that I did experiment with drugs, like in high school, the feeling of being out of control made me feel even more out of control. So I wanted to run from that because I already was experiencing being out of control here.
So you didn't feel seduced by drugs or alcohol, or did you?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like there were at a time that I experimented with cocaine. I mean, did I love it with my girlfriends when I was sitting there smoking cigarettes, talking a mile a minute? Sure. But what I didn't like was the coming down off of it. And I was like, oh my God, like I felt horrible. And I was like, I can't do this. Like I feel completely out of control. And I think you also, when you experience a drug that you can tell has, again, like I said, I loved doing coke at the time that I experimented with it, but I knew that like that feeling of like, this feels good to do it now it could completely fucking just obliterate me. Mm-hmm. So that feeling of like, this thing could control me, I got to get the fuck out.
Is there some tools that you did to kind of keep yourself engaged, keep yourself healthy?
I think that's all relative to how conscious I was. So maybe what I did to try and make different decisions look different at 19 than it does at 37.
Yeah. And you are a mom of an 8-year-old?
He's 7.5. Yeah.
7.5. So you have a son, and during this time after he was born, you were going through incredible grief.
Sure.
How do you teach your son consciously and protect yourself at the same time? Like is there something that is important for you to teach as a mother, knowing what you know?
I've said this to my partner now, Andrew, and I think the greatest gift that I will give my 2 sons, because they know nothing about how my brother died or how their grandmother died or anything like that. They know they're not here. And in time, as they get older, they will then understand where their mother comes from, what I've had to navigate, places I've been in my life. And the greatest gift that I can give them is the choices that I'm making in real time right now, because my children will never have the life that I had, but I can't predict things that they might experience once they're older or even still under my roof. And I need them to know that they can get through it. So this work that I do now, like I said, the choices I make in real time are the best gifts that I will give to my children, because they're going to tell them what they're capable of getting through. And, you know, I didn't come from this family where I was prepared. I mean, I think at 37, I'm still navigating like what I'm going to do in a way. So I'm not going to be able to give my children this gift of like, hey, listen, these are this is how you do your IRA, and this is the stocks.
There's no straight line.
Fuck no. It's like, I'm not going to be able to give them that. Yeah. I'm going to be able to give them like, look, whatever life throws at you, these skills, this is what I'm going to give you. This is what I'm going to talk to you about, because this, no matter what car you drive, no matter how much money you have in the bank, all of that shit, it really does not matter at all. And I think when you go through tragedy, you realize you can either use it to propel you or make a choice for it not to. And for me, when I lost my brother, that propelled me, because when you lose somebody like that, your life becomes really fucking clear about what am I doing here?
Do you feel really grateful about your decisions and about your life and about how you live your life, understanding the loss?
I think I'm always going to be in relationship of understanding, and it's all going to be relative to where I'm at in that process of that. But I am grateful that I'm grateful that I don't medicate myself. I'm grateful that I choose steps that even though I don't know how they're going to turn out, it's giving me a best shot at not becoming what I came from.
Do you feel like you're running from that sometimes?
It's interesting. I feel like all my life I've been running from crazy.
Wow.
There's a documentary and that's what it's called. And that was
tell me, what is it? Running from Crazy?
It's amazing. Yeah.
I need to see this instantly.
Oh no, you do. I actually have it.
Is it on
I can
Netflix?
send it to you. Yes, it is.
Okay, great.
It is on Netflix. Who was the Hemingway? Hemingway killed himself. His granddaughter, I forget her name, but she was an actress. He had two granddaughters. One ended up
Mariel Hemingway?
Yes.
Or Mariel?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she did a documentary. I believe it's her, the one that's still alive, because her sister is dead, and then the other sister is mentally ill. And that was the first time that the words, that feeling, the word, the name of her documentary, and things that she went through actually put, like, I had like a name for it now. Like, because even as a child, I was aware that where I was not right. It didn't feel good. So when I saw that, I was like, fuck, man, that's it. Like, I feel like to some extent, I've always been running from crazy, running so that, and I think anyone who's a child of an addict or an alcoholic or comes from a really dysfunctional home that was unstable, they get that. They get that if they're conscious.
There's a famous saying, or something I picked up from an interview with Sheryl Sandberg. So Sheryl Sandberg's the Yahoo executive that is now the Facebook executive, amazing woman who wrote Lean In. And she lost her husband suddenly and dealt with the death of it. And she talked a lot about how she was dealt with she's always grieving, but immediately after in the grieving period. And that people would ask, how are you? Like questions that are, kind of like, how do you think I am? You know what I mean? And she said the best thing that you can say to somebody who's grieving is, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? What do you wish people would say? What do you wish people could say to you during those tough times?
I think a lot of times, and I think it's a natural response, people walk on eggshells around a grieving person or around a traumatic situation. They walk on eggshells. And I think that does a disservice. I think that does a disservice to the supporting party of the grieving people or person. And I think it does a disservice just generally all around. You can't heal what you don't bring out into the light or to be seen. So if someone lost a child and, you're like, I don't even know what to say to this person. It's like, what the fuck would you want someone to say to you? If you see someone that, they're just sitting there with a blank stare, it's like, how do you not look at them and not just want to be like, you fucking miss them, don't you? Like, you miss your kid. Having that compassion on somebody to get out of your, it makes me emotional to get out of that place of, I am uncomfortable with this, so I don't want to say anything. But that person is in pain no matter if you say something or if you don't.
Oh, that's powerful. My husband lost 2 of his siblings. And his parents buried 2 of their children. And I didn't know one of them. One of them is Danny, and that's why we named our son Danny.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, thank you. And the other one died while I was in the picture. Sure. And I could not imagine what it must feel like to lose a sibling. I'm one of 7 kids. My husband is one of 7 children. And to understand that loss and be able to be there for them. I wish I knew. It's just an awkward kind of thing. You don't know how to be or what to be or how, are they good now? Or is it cool? So I think what I'm hearing from you is just be fucking normal. and just, tell them what's going on. Ask them how they're feeling.
Yeah. I mean, because, like, how are you feeling? Like, well, of course, the person is completely probably feeling decimated by the reality of a situation, but just holding space and being there with them. And sometimes, honestly, not saying anything at all is also totally appropriate when, I mean, there's been many a times that I have been sitting in what would feel like a catatonic state of just feeling pain. Do you know what I mean? Like at different times. Mm-hmm. And if someone were to have seen me, sitting there on my couch by myself and just tears and I have a blank stare, then just wouldn't that be awesome to just go and sit next to them and just be there with them? To just be there with them and say, like, I know I can't feel this for you, but I am here with you.
What did it feel like to feel, and this could be completely insensitive to say because I know that you're always in a grieving process.
Sure.
What did it feel like to come out or through or to feel better or feel joy again? Did you feel guilty when you felt joy after loss?
So after loss, it's funny because I do remember the night, and I didn't know this in real time at the time. The night that my brother committed suicide, I had an incredible night with my son and my husband at the time and a couple that he worked with. They came over and it was just like one of those nights where you were like, God, like this feels really, really good. And then I woke up the next day. And so I do remember in my process of like, thinking about him and the process he went through to actually kill himself. And I'm sitting there just joyful, with my son. Did
you feel guilty or did you feel like...
Yeah, there's a part of me that was like, oh my God, but I think feeling joy again after my brother died, I don't know that I wrestled with feeling guilty for feeling joy again because I knew that my brother was with me and actively like supporting me. So I went through kind of like, I know we're getting back to that question that you asked that I'm not sure it was even really answered about the spirituality.
It always comes
together. It always comes back. I told you
together.
kind of where I came from. Mm-hmm. And I've always been, now I have a label or a word for it that we can, best connect to, but I've always been intuitive. I've always been sensitive. I've always been able to sense energy. I didn't understand what that looked like or what that was. And then the things that were attached to that, it was like, that's mysticism and that's like devil stuff. And that, and I was like, what, because of where I was being raised. So I had a lot of unlearning to do and also leaning into myself and my own sensitivities. But when Jesse died, and I started to just go on this journey of going into the grief and going on the journey with it. And I started Dear Jesse, my brother, and I started making, his energy and how I knew him while he was here in the physical world was fighting tooth and nail to get me to realize that it was him. And once I finally got that it was him with these certain things that I was experiencing, it was like, I never felt completely alone ever in my process of grieving because I knew he was there with me.
It sounds like you felt like a productive release through those creative aspects, which kind of brings me to your project now called A House of 88. Mm-hmm. And you are a self-proclaimed creative visualist.
Yeah, I
have no fucking idea what that means. But from what I can tell, it's like a very dark, moody photographer.
Really?
I don't know. What does it mean? Tell me.
I think I've hated labels like since the time I was a kid, like, oh, this is what I am, because I know that as soon as I say this is what I am, then that's what I'm not. And I hate that because I don't want to limit myself.
You like the fluidity.
Yeah. And like, I like to give myself constant permission to just chase where that creativity is pulling me. So maybe it's writing, or maybe it's through the lens, or maybe it's, with design, or maybe it's with producing canvases, to shoot in front of, like, whatever it is. I don't I don't want to say I'm just this and that's it. But no, it does heavily revolve around photography. So for me, a creative visualist, obviously, I don't have to explain what being creative is. The visualist is, more or less just it coming through that you are responding to it through a visual. So whatever that may be. And right now it is centered around photography. But I think for you, you said to me, you're like, your photography is dark.
It is.
I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't know if it's because the backgrounds are usually darker, like a darker background.
I definitely like shadow work when I do. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I can go out and shoot that super airy outside, in the green, and that feel good photography that people look at and they're like, oh, that's so light and expansive. But there's a yin and a yang. And I think one place that I have found that I know, not that I know how to navigate well, but I've spent a lot of time in is in shadows. So I think that comes through.
What is that that line that you have on Dear Jesse, My Brother, about shadows? I think it's beautiful. I wrote it down.
Oh, I think Rumi.
Without darkness, there is no light. Oh, is that Rumi? It's Jen Roberts.
Jen
Roberts.
No, but I obviously very much resonated with that. And I think for me, I mean, there was no moving forward. There was no light unless I was going to bring all of this stuff like out into it. So, in one of the letters that I wrote my brother, you were talking about the loss of a child, and you're like, people, your in-laws who have lost children. I saw that firsthand in real time. The first time that I saw my brother dead, because I wasn't there. My sister was the one that found him. By the time my father got there to the motel, police and everybody were already there. So everything was like a scene. So he couldn't get in there and see my brother. So my sister was the one who had. And when I took the flight up, and it was the next day in the funeral home, and I'm sitting around the round table, and I'm there with my father and my sister and myself. And my father's not really participating I don't think he had the capacity to. And my sister was pretty much, as you can imagine, going through a different thing. So she didn't really have the capacity. So I was at that table saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. We all agree on it. And then I said, before I leave here, I said, sir, I want to see my brother. And he kind of looked at me weird, the funeral home director, because I don't think most people do that. They don't. He's like, well, he's had nothing done to him. He's just been embalmed. He has no anything. I said, I don't care. He has a sheet over him. Bring him up. So I think there was a part of me, it was real at that time, but it wasn't really real yet, because I hadn't seen the reality of the brother that I knew and navigated life with, lifeless. So when he brought him up, my sister went into the room and she saw him and she went out, and my dad went in and he was with him. And it took me a little bit. Again, that feeling of your life being suspended in front of you. And I knew that as soon as I turned that corner again, I'm now approaching another chapter in this experience, right? So I think the biggest thing for me has always been staying conscious through the experience. And watching my father standing and having my brother on this metal gurney with a sheet over him. And my dad's on one side and I'm on the other side. And in real time looking and seeing my dad, who is a spiritual religious man, ask God to put life back into his son. And he said, put blood back in his veins and bring him, like, give him back to me. And watching another human being go through that is heart-wrenching. And it being your father, and you're seeing that it's your brother that's laying there, and like that's the thing that's between you two. Being a parent now, like I honestly asked my higher self and my higher power, I really hope I don't ever have to experience losing a child, because it is something that is just, it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, my brother was 37 or 36 when he died.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You learn so much from that. But I feel like I have a friend of mine who is a 3-time cancer survivor. And she is in her early 40s. And she's like, Allison, I don't give a fuck anymore. She's
I'm sure she doesn't.
Making decisions are so much easier now
Yeah.
because it's so easy to let the bullshit fall away.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you relate to that.
Fuck yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I do. I definitely do. I think I'm going through a phase right now, like we just talked about being so sure of the path you were on and then the path changing when
Yeah.
it comes to like my work and all of that kind of stuff. So I've been navigating, maybe feeling a little unclear, like, oh, floating. What am I doing? Where am I going now? But I definitely resonate with what she's saying. I mean, there's a certain point because you're like, yeah, that doesn't really fucking matter. I'm not going to do that. If it doesn't feel good, I don't want to do it. And I don't mean in a selfish way. Like,
No,
I
I
only
get it,
want to
yeah.
do what feels good. But if that doesn't resonate with me or that doesn't feel like that's aligned with me, fuck it, not doing it. And I'm unapologetic about it.
I think you should be.
Yeah.
I think it's a great position to be as an example for that, because we have so much shit. Myself, I am huge at this, that I occupy my mind with the dumbest shit, and it just,
We all
like,
do.
it doesn't really matter, and so understanding and kind of bringing back. And I think I mentioned to you that podcast. It's my very favorite podcast. I don't know if you checked it out. It's called
Not
Terrible
yet.
Thanks for Asking.
Yeah.
And the host, her name is Nora McInerney, and she is she's a woman who lost a baby through a miscarriage, and her father, and 6 weeks later, lost her husband to brain cancer. And she had written books about it and started this podcast, kind of born out of it. And the podcast, like I said, is Terrible Thanks for Asking, and it's a great name, and it's what would happen. It's posing the question of what would happen if you answered honestly to the question, how are you?
Sure.
And so she highlights all of these stories, but I'm getting chills. But what I think is so amazing about it is that as she tells her story, and by the way, she's fucking hilarious. She's so funny.
And by the way, and it's okay to actually have humor. I just want to
Yes.
say this. It is so okay to have fucking humor through a loss.
I think that's what her
Through
book
a
is
loss.
called. Her book is called It's Okay to Laugh, Crying is Cool Too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's hilarious. And so she actually started a club called the Hot Young Widows Club, and it's not like she made light of it, but she,
But in a way, you kind of look. In a way, you are. It's like medicine. You know that cliche. Laughter is medicine. It really is in a
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
It is in a way. Like I can sit there and watch stand up, and if they went on a tangent about like suicide, and I could laugh at that.
yeah.
That doesn't take away from the pain and like the realness of what I'm navigating or the
Yes.
seriousness of the situation.
And that's what I think is she has all of these people who have these, really unbelievable stories that they're sharing. But I think what's so amazing about this show is that in most cases, most of us probably will not experience what some of people are sharing, but it is such a human approach
Sure.
to it. And she's so fun. She's a perfect conduit to inviting these stories because she is so funny. But in such a respectful, dignified, human way,
Sure.
that it makes me feel so much more connected to humans and humanity.
Sure.
Just by hearing these stories. It's not even depressing.
Yeah.
Like you'd think, well, these are really tough things, but they're actually not depressing at all. It's a really brilliant show. I'd highly recommend. But so what is next for you?
I think right now, like I said, after being faced with the reality that I needed to close that business, and then going into this, it all kind of coincided with the fact that I had been pregnant, and it was like I went into my own cocoon, and I feel like now I'm just starting to kind of poke my new wings out, and I'm going to just really kind of follow my creativity right now and the lens, which is something that I've always been drawn to, and I've always had an eye, and I've been good, but I never really pursued it 100%. And so now that's definitely one of the things that I'm doing. But also I can feel, and I'm not ready to completely claim it yet, but I know that there's a different phase and chapter now coming with Dear Jesse, My Brother, that I know is going to start.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And how can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. I just started the House of 88. It's house of .88, where I have some of the photography stuff. And let's see, I mean, that's really where I'm at. I mean, I don't run under the LB brand anymore, although you can check out the LB brand. There's 6 years of amazing content and inspiration that you can, go and check out, and just amazing people that I connected with and built this global community of really pretty badass people. So
do you stay connected with them?
I do pop in there like every now and again because, if someone does not know that I shifted out of that, because so here's the thing, the business is no longer there, but the community is there, and it's alive and it's well. I mean, it's still alive without me, really kind of
facilitating it
anymore. Right. I'm still getting people that are DMing and saying, getting tattoos of the Protector, Lover, Mother design and saying, this means so much to me for whatever the reason is, whether it took so long for me to become a mom because I went through miscarriages or whatever, whatever their story is. So the community is there, and you can still check it out and connect with people. But right now I'm just under House of 88, and I'm just like I said, I'm just starting to peek my little wings back out. So,
well, I'll be sure to link it in the show notes for sure. Yeah. But I thank you for being here. I think that our stories are sacred.
Sure.
And your story is profound and it's meaningful. And I appreciate who you are.
Yeah,
especially to people who are going through grief.
Yeah, and I was going to say, speaking of that, DearJessieMyBrother.com. And that's also Dear Jessie, my brother on Instagram. And so those are the two places.
Beware of that. It's like a rabbit hole. You can't stop reading.
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you are interested and you do start reading the letters, they're meant to be read in numerical order. So you would start at 1 and then go.
Yeah, it is beautiful. So thank you for being here,
Thank
Jen.
you so much and holding space for me.
Round 2, of course.
Got it.
Big thanks to Jen Roberts for being so raw and sharing her powerful story. I can't wait to see her extraordinary creations as she continues to evolve. Please think of 3 or 4 people you know and pass this episode along. As for me, I'm building the audience in this podcast, so I truly hope you'll not only subscribe, but leave a review and continue sharing these episodes. I'm also looking for new sponsors for future episodes, so please hit me up. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.